As President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration gains momentum, there are signs that he's actively seeking globally acclaimed technocrats to assume key positions in his government's strategic ministries. This begs the question, what is the fate of the governors and many others who strive to ensure his emergence as not just the party's candidate, but also his victory in the 2023 presidential election? So far, the president has made 12 key appointments out of the 20 slots which he sought Senate approval for, and none of these governors made the cut. Will the president be working with these governors, some of whom are now out of office, or will he risk it all by working with technocrats all through? These are the questions we'll attempt to dissect on the program tonight. And hello viewers, and welcome to Daily Politics. Eid Mubarak. On this program, we discuss issues around politics, policy, and governance. I am Hamza Idris. On the program, we are joined by Baba Yusuf, a strategist and policy analyst. He's also a columnist and the CEO at Global Investment and Trade Company. Also joining us is Mukhtar Suleiman, a public commentator and a strategic communications expert. Welcome to the program, and Eid Mubarak, gentlemen.
Thank you, Hamza.
We're happy having you. It's the festive month. Yeah.
Eid Mubarak.
Yes, we'll go on a short break, and when we return, the conversation of the day commences. Don't go away. Welcome back. Yes, Baba Yusuf, as a strategist, what is your assessment so far? 12 appointments, apart from the service chiefs, right?
Yes.
What is your take?
So far, so good. I'm not surprised by the appointments. If we look at the antecedents of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, he's a man that has a knack for picking talent, spotting them, picking them, working with them. And he's also having this very interesting quality of a long-standing leader, and that is when you look at him, look at a leader, you pick not less than 5 people and ask, how long have they been together? That demonstrates the depth of the quality of that leader, a leader that has people that have been with him for decades. So these are long-standing political allies that have been with him, that understand his vision. He understands this. There's commonality of purpose. There's a shared vision. People that have supported him and been with him to deliver. You know, as the saying goes, you don't change a winning team. So suffice it to say, these particular hires are hires that I believe are people that have his ears. They have been his sounding boards. And they are people he believes are going to add value, you know, by upscaling the quality of his leadership from a governor's regional leader to a national leader.
All right, Mukhtar, what is your take? I am suspecting something is happening because anyway, digressing, when subsidy was removed, no protest. When Naira, you know, the window was closed, no protest, right? Now, even appointments, look at the service chiefs, for instance. I didn't hear ethnic or religious jungus making, you know, noise over it. Why is it so? Is it that Nigerians are so tired? I keep asking this question on this program, that is it that Nigerians are just looking for something else, that, okay, let's get whatever you have, let's see it on the ground and let's move on.
I don't think it's because Nigerians are tired. I think it's because it's shocking. So we're sort of catching our breath. That's the best way I like to put it. He is playing politics not as the regular way politics is being played in the country that we are aware of. Over the past 23 years of our democracy as we know it, there's always a pattern that people can actually foresee and oftentimes guess how it's going to turn out. But that's not the situation that we are in currently. So I'm seeing that our polity and our governance is beginning to take a different turn, a dynamic. If it's consistent over the course of the next 4 years, there's going to be a shift in the perception of how politics is played in the polity. So, and that is really a good thing that we want, if it is played right, of course. I don't know what the short the backlash would be, especially with the trajectory that the president is going currently.
Yes.
Because we all know...
If he maintains the momentum.
Yeah, because we all know that political appointments are reward for good behaviors during campaigns.
Okay.
And there were a lot of people who were at the vanguard of the campaign, people who saw to it that they gave it blood and sweat. I mean, for the very first time, we saw somebody like Malam Nasser El-Rufai go against Buhari publicly. Did a whole press conference and everything, especially during the night.
And I've seen Shehu Sani now mocking El-Rufai because he was thinking that El-Rufai would either be Secretary of the Federation or Chief of Staff.
Exactly.
But he's now mocking him. In fact, the latest post was that why is he silent? That they should continue with their fight. Because he has this feeling that maybe El-Rufai has been ditched by the president.
Well, we don't know what's going on. It's, if anything,
it's just a number, you know.
If anything, history has taught us is that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu can be a very fickle person. It's very difficult to actually predict what his next move is.
He's a shrewd fellow.
Yeah, and he holds his cards very close to his chest. Yeah. So we're hoping that at the end of the day, whatever it is that he's doing, however it is that he's piecing this politics together, is actually going to be to the benefit of the country in a larger scale than otherwise.
I can see you are nodding your head. Yes. So far, I saw Professor Isaac Akintola. He's the director of Muslim rights groups. I think he's mocking some people. I don't want us to discuss that deeply. But what he was saying is, by the few appointments, even though he said they are keenly watching how things unfold. But in the statement he issued, he said, so far, they have seen the trajectory. And it's like, from what we have on ground, this issue of maybe Islamization or taking people from one part of the country has been demystified.
That's true. And again, by antecedents, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, Mr. President, has, by his nature, being cosmopolitan, being balanced in the way and manner he does things since his emergence in the political, history or landscape of Nigeria. But importantly, taking it from there, I think we need to expand that conversation with regards to the reward. After elections, the basis for reward may be just basically because of people that have made inputs in terms of campaign and all that. If you look at it traditionally, even you're looking at the United States of America, what we consider bastion of democracy, or the United Kingdom, even, the recent emergence of Richie Sunak or, Boris Johnson and all of them. There are three layers or three methodologies to reward, politicians or players in the political scheme. Yes, and I will explain them.
All right.
And then what is important is to note here with the emergence of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and what he's doing is he is adding value to the political evolution by doing what? By adding value to what his predecessors were doing from the time of President Olusegun Obasanjo to President Yar'Adua to President Goodluck Jonathan, and also, of course, to some certain extent, not significantly, President Muhammadu Buhari. So what am I saying? The first is like what Mukhtar said, settling political allies that have demonstrated that participation, they have made the input in terms of numbers by delivering the votes, and by way of that, you need to give them, some kind of reward, which many people perceive should be either ministerial appointment or all that. The second layer of people are people that, like I said, have been loyal to you through thick and thin, not just on the rainy day. People obviously saw what was playing out. We know there were people, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is very intelligent, and it doesn't take that depth of intelligence, with due respect, to know how the dynamic this emergence of Bola Tinubu happened. 6 months ago, there were people that were doggedly against him within the party hierarchy, against his emergence in the primary, that later on did an about face and became his most, laudable supporters, and claiming now the victory that they delivered, they are loyal and all that. Loyalty is not tested by temporary activities, gentlemen. Loyalty is tested over time, and we are very sure.
So that
second that second group are the people that have been with him through thick and thin. Yeah.
People that have been with him, and like I said, he's that type of leader that rewards that.
Yeah.
That recognizes that. And at this critical moment, he needs people that he can trust, not political Shylocks, not those political quote and unquote jobbers.
Because there are many who it was when they realized it was obvious he was going to make it. Yeah.
It doesn't mean he's going to throw them away, but I'm telling you, the settlement comes around this political factor.
Yeah.
The fourth factor is what is very important. It started during the time of President Olusegun Obasanjo. If you want to have a trajectory that is forward-facing, forward-thinking, you must bring in technocrats to drive your governance framework.
Okay.
So you have politics, you have policy, you have governance. How do you want these three
the slogan
pillars
of our program?
Yes, exactly. And these are three critical pillars to evolve your polity and to deliver good governance. In doing so, even Joe Biden, Obama, every leader that emerges has these three layers of settlement. And there is no rule that says you should carry everything and give those people that were bringing the votes and all that, because they may not have the capacity, or they may not have the integrity, or they have become political liabilities in a way. So what do? You identify the people that will deliver the critical portfolios for you. And that is why you see the likes of Okonjo-Iweala, the likes of Obi Ezekwesili, the likes of Sanusi Lamido Sanusi, and all that. And it's not also the settlement. People perceive settlement from the point of view of special advisors and ministers. We forget that the critical players, the critical success factors to deliver good governance are not the ministers. They are the key CEOs, the drivers of the MDAs. And that is why you see President Olusegun Obasanjo, President Yar'Adua particularly, were very deliberate in selecting the likes of Okonjo-Iweala, picking the likes of El-Rufai to become the DG of BPE, setting the platform for him to become the minister of FCT. These were people that were hitherto either apolitical or just pure technocrats. Yes. Okay, you have the likes of Akinwumi Adesina, who came in, and became Minister of Agriculture, coming in as a technocrat from outside the country. You have, the list is long. But in terms of the MDAs, you have the likes of Sanusi Lamido Sanusi coming to CBN. You have the likes of the man Fowler at FIRS. These are technocrats you bring on board. They may later become political, but the key thing is they have that, first of all, initial neutrality. Secondly, the value they are bringing to the table based on the vision of your framework. So it's early days. Another thing is there are some political players that have become so big that giving them, or that have become for expediency of politics, giving them political office on the front line becomes an issue. Come on. We have 8 years. People have been governors for 8 years. And Nigerians are, yearning for freshness in this governance.
Yeah.
Tinubu knows that. So bringing all these governors again, who probably hitherto have not even delivered good governance, but have delivered value for him to win election. What is he doing? We have, from the emergence even of the Speaker of the House of Representatives, we hear rumors or snipers, which, makes sense, that Malam Nasir El-Rufai promoted the emergence of Tajuddin Abbas, which is part of political settlement, for example. We have the likes of his political protege, Hadith Zabala Usman, who is now a key player in his kitchen cabinet.
Yeah.
So
special advisor
you can go on. So that way, these people have emerged as political players. They don't necessarily have to be there all the time in the front seat.
There are other places that
so he is also helping them to evolve, to become critical political stakeholders and become the unseen hands, not necessarily playing the game in the foray. It's another way.
I will come back to you, but from what Baba said, are you in agreement? And from me, the conclusion is that it's not necessary for all the governors that worked for his emergence to be ministers.
Agreed. Actually, I think it's actually true. You ought to bring in value for the work that you're actually going to be assigned with. So it shouldn't just be plain rewards for...
it's not about compensation.
It shouldn't just be all about compensation. However, there is this popular saying that says it is politics, good politics, and good policies that brings good governance. So you could get good policies right, but if you fail...
You are pampering our program tonight.
Yeah. If you fail in the
which
politics...
is good.
If you fail in the politics, you're going to have it wrong, because politics is where vested interest lies. So you could have good policies as a technocrat, but if you cannot play the politics of vested interest to ensure that it flies, governance will suffer. So I think that's something
in my mind.
Yeah. You see, I think that's something that the president needs to put into account. He's excited, and it's good. And from the look of things, the kind of policies he has rolled out, the kind of appointment he has made, he has the good interest of the country at heart. However, he has to find a way, and I know for a fact that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is actually a very good negotiator. So he has to look for a way to ensure that these people do not have unchecked grievances that might end up becoming a big problem for him within the governance systems. So one way or the other, something has to be sorted. Like Baba Yusuf actually mentioned earlier, the appointment of Hadiza Bala Usman into office sort of cushions the ego of Malam Nasser El-Rufai, because of course this is your person. We all know that this is your person. Azabala he has never been quiet or silent about it.
Even the speaker.
Yeah, and even the speaker that he actually, although it's still a rumor, so to speak, but if that is true, then that's also something.
Some actually say it was Bajabiya Mila who worked for the
however it goes, it still has to, the president has to ensure that he does not forget the politics aspect of it. He doesn't get too excited, because aside from me, I'm not an APC person anyway, let me put that disclaimer out there, but there's also a re-election to look forward to at the end of the day.
2027.
Yeah, so you don't want to play a long...
But Nigerians don't really care about 2027.
No, we're not talking about...
What they want is what happens before December.
No, you see, no.
How can some people turn around
I know
Nigeria?
for a fact that the president is very excited.
And then how can prices of commodities come down? How can we have these electronic vehicles or gas-powered vehicles on the road?
Those things are not going to work now.
How, NER can change its mind and say, okay, look.
Let's be one
electricity. Exactly.
But all of that cannot work now, because if you look at them in the long term, it has to take some time for the market to stabilize and for these things to actually take effect if they are properly implemented. However, just I think 2 weeks ago, I published an article. One of my articles with the Daily Trust newspaper was on how poor consumer behavior.
We have columnists and opinion writer in the studio.
So one of it is how poor consumer behavior can thwart good policies. So while we know that these good policies are coming in, and let's assume that the government gets it right in the implementation side, if we have poor consumer behavior, if we do crowd mob reaction toward these things, it will thwart the intent. The intended consequence of it will be that there will be a very poor outcome at the end of the day. So we also have to take that into account. So Nigerians need to be a tad patient, and let's see how all of these things actually roll out. But the president himself, going back to the core of this conversation, the president himself needs to always remember that it is politics and policies that gives good governance.
Okay, Baba, you have had Mukhtar. I read somewhere, one of the social media platforms, a certain woman, a PhD, I think from Harvard, an APC member, venting her anger. That look, we heard that when you went to France, you started headhunting for technocrats to come back home and help you drive your government. We can also do it. She said, in fact, she advertised herself that I have Harvard degree, I'm PhD holder, I'm a member of the political party, I play for your success. Why not consider me? Why will you go and bring a certain technocrat from outside? Don't you think there is a subtle rebellion from within the house?
You see, the interests are high when the stakes are high, Hamza. It's expected. And I agree with the doctor. And like we mentioned earlier, I deliberately listed names of international technocrats and even Nigerian technocrats, the likes of Sanusi, Mr. Fowler, and all that are resident in Nigeria. They rose through the ranks and they are technocrats. Even Malam Nasser El-Rufai, the likes of Nuhu Ribadu and co. Then you have the international ones like Okonjo-Iweala. The point is this. Mr. President is the one on the hot seat. He has a vision, and he sold a manifesto to Nigerians, won a very hardly fought contest, recognizing that what the numbers that gave him the victory are numbers that spoke to him to tell him that the majority of the people that didn't vote for him is very high.
Yeah.
Now, recognizing
more than
that,
those who voted for
yes,
them.
and if you recognizing that in the choice of people that will drive the critical MDAs, the presidents will look at the kind of values they want those people to bring. I think the woman, she may be rightly also playing her own strategy to be known. But the point is, if you want to bring in someone that will be able to bring in for you foreign investments, for example, that will be able to, you are able to leverage that network, for example. We saw the kind of value Okonjo-Iweala brought to this country. It was during her tenure that President Obasanjo, used that strategy to get us to get our debts forgiven. Yeah. That is huge, okay? A local technocrat, with due respect to the local, could not maybe be able to bring in, to leverage in that and bring it in. Conversely, we, the technocrats that are within the country, will be more in touch with the realities of some of these portfolios. That requires domestication of conceptualization and actualization. That you bring someone from the moon or someone from Switzerland that has been far disconnected from reality will not be able to deliver. So I think this man that is on the mantle, just like President Obasanjo, just like Mr. Hamza, inshallah, will know when you are in the seat, what portfolio do I want to give Mr. X or Madam X in terms of, let's use investment, trade, for example, investment and trade and industry, for example, or maybe finance, or maybe foreign affairs and all that. You need to look at the combination of the skill set and the network you need to bring in. At this critical point in time, there's a lot of leveraging that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has to do with the international community to get some succor. Conversely, like I said, let us see the kind of hires that we'll have, especially at the MDA, at the departments and agencies level, including the ministry, for example. So I think it's too early for people to be too excited. He's doing the right thing by trying to get the mix of skills. Like I said, I use antecedents to try to hazard a projection. We saw what he did in Lagos. We saw how he's been able to articulate that. We saw the likes of the people like Mr. Ewemi Oshibaju, SAN, becoming the vice president later in the year. So I believe that he's very much aware of that local content. And to add value to what Mukhtar said, this is a man that is an epitome of political sagacity. That political angle, he's very much aware of it. That is why, even if you will not get a position, 2 or 3 of your proteges will get for the long haul.
Which will assuage your faith. If you have your way now to say who should make Tinubu's ministers, who and who, not names, I mean, the pedigree, the caliber of people, what will you suggest?
Oh, this is very, very important. You know why it is very, very important for us to actually get it right in terms of who would actually drive most of these MDAs is because if you look at the policies that have been rolled out now, because he was very fast to hit the ground running like he promised at the NSG summit. So now you've signed the EPSRA into law, that's the Electric Power Sector Reform Act. You've signed you've declared the removal of fuel subsidy. So many policies have been coming out. The digital,
the student loan,
the student loan. So you need people who understand these nuances at his minutiae level to be able to come and drive it.
Because they are not just a nomenclature.
Yeah, he cannot come and drive it now. So now, if you talk about the education sector, the student loan is a very tricky subject because you have to look at...
in US, in UK,
it is a point of conversation, of campaign. The way we campaign with roads is how they campaign with student loans in the US. So it's a very, very tricky subject because you have to look at the economic angle. You have to look at the education side. You have to look at the realities of students themselves. Because just yesterday, a friend of mine who's a lecturer in BUK, we were discussing last night.
The data protection.
We were discussing last night, and he was telling me that if we leave, because BUK just rolled out their school fees plan the last few days, and school fees are going as high as 200,000.
I saw it,
School fees are going as high as 200,000 naira now.
You know, when we reported as if the sky will fall, this paper, Daily Trust, we reported that, look, Nigerians were excited. Students, we said, look, you are going to start paying fees.
Yes.
But now,
I read it as well, yes.
Tuition now is now in it. But now the problem with the tuition is there's still no lecturer salary yet. Inside of that tuition yet per se, because if they do that, then the school fees should go up as high as 500,000. So now we're discussing this on a more local scale and what that would mean for the education system. And he was saying for a school like BUK, for example, what might end up happening is students will drop out. A lot of students will drop out of the university system. Some departments will have to fold up.
Wow.
Yes, some department will have to fold up. That means you have to lay off staff.
Because they cannot fund themselves,
Because they will not be, because they will not be.
Is it that they are not attractive or whatever?
Most likely because a lot of students will have to drop out. So some department on the normal has very few students already. So imagine if more than 50% of the students in those departments drop out. So they have to fold up the department. So if that happens, you have to lay off staff. That means unemployment rate will go up.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things that whoever the education minister has to become, whoever is
person who will drive the
needs
education
to understand all of these variables and how they play into ensuring that policy delivers the maximum impact that is needed. Now, you look at the power sector, for example. Now they are saying we are privatizing power generation. So anybody can go set up solar mini grids, for example, in communities. Take this, if you just go get a state-regulated license. We need somebody who understands the power sector properly. The few times I spent in the energy sector in REA last year, I've been able to at least get, but it's still, we need somebody who gets the technical parts, not just the technical part. Energy financing is a very, very critical part. So you don't just want somebody who understands the technicality even of this part. You want somebody who understands the administration of it as well, so that the person can be able to match
also the
those
business
two parts.
aspect, right?
This person has to be able to match those parts together and ensure that maximum impact is actually gotten. Because now the president has rolled out policy ahead of his appointments.
Wow.
So now, whosoever is going to ensure that these policies are good needs to be somebody that can actually measure up to the challenges that would come. Because now, we are not crying now because to some extent, we've not started feeling the brunt of these things. Schools have not resumed fully yet.
Okay,
Some people paid school fees already since 2020. You know, schools have had that issue, COVID, ASU strike and all of that. So a lot of schools, students have not started paying, will not start paying the new school fees until maybe next year.
Yes.
So that is when the brunt of it will actually hit us. The reality of it will actually hit us. So what would be the response? Because now there has to be like a contingency response plan as to, okay, if people come in and don't let
I wish they understand this.
Yeah,
Even the people who brought the idea, because it can't be his idea alone.
Yeah.
They need to be very proactive. Because the funny part of it, the irony of it is that you cannot even say it is his idea. That's the funny part of it. It is not his idea because the Ninth Assembly passed it.
Yes, he signed it.
The Ninth Assembly has already passed it. All he did was assent to it to law. So it was not really him. Because the 10th Assembly was just inaugurated on June 13th.
Wow.
So it's now that he actually has an assembly to help drive policies.
And he rightly said that he is actually inheriting both assets and liability of the previous government. So we'll build on this maybe after we take a break. Yeah, viewers, don't go away. We'll be back shortly. Thank you. Welcome back. If you are just joining this Daily Politics on Trust TV, do well to follow the conversation across our social platforms on Facebook, Instagram, and watch us live on YouTube. Still have in the studio Mukhtar Suleiman, public affairs commentator and strategic communication expert, and Baba Yusuf, strategist and policy analyst. Welcome back to the program.
Thank you.
Yes, Tinubu inherited liabilities and assets. He has dissolved boards of dozens of agencies. They are quite a number. And in one of our editions, in the Daily Trust, we said that there is also disquiet, uneasiness among management of those agencies that he dissolved the boards, meaning that he has room to employ in court over 5,000 people. Because if you look at the boards, you know, the chairman, board members. Now you come to
even the CEOs.
The CEOs and all that. Now,
MDs.
Where should these governors, because Mukhtar said something that he should be mindful of the people that brought him to power. Where should they go, the governors? Mukhtar has explained the kind of people that should be ministers, and I saw you nodding your head. Maybe you have to add on that, but where should the governors go? I mean, former governors. Where should he send them? Is it that they should be ambassadors?
Thank you for that.
Or you also agree, because some people are saying they are a baggage, you know, they are a liability to the president.
Ambassadorial positions.
To be honest, Hamza, like I said earlier, Tinubu could be, I'm using the word deliberately, the person that will take us to the next phase of our political evolution. This transactional, operational... You
have so much hope in this man.
Yes, that's why I use the word could.
Okay.
And I'm being hopeful, first of all, from the point of view of the hope I have for this country. Secondly, I like giving people benefit of the doubt. And like I said, as a student of strategy, data drives my thinking, reason, logic.
And I know that you will not hesitate to drag him to the mood if he fails.
Definitely. I mean, speaking truth to power is part of my antecedents for those that know me. But I mean, we should give people chances to deliver. Now, back to the question. You see, the next phase of the political evolution I'm talking about is for Nigeria to mature. What you are talking about is like we'll be backsliding. Somebody was minister for donkey years, became governor for 8 years. Now we want him to be there and we want Nigeria to progress. Come on. In other climes where there's evolution, people still have roles to play. If we are talking about that with these governors, that most of them, with due respect, have underperformed woefully.
Because there was
to their constituents and to Nigerians. The facts are there, we all saw it. While some have been strategic and value-adding, some have actually been warming the seat.
They depleted.
Now, looking at that, from that context, what do we say of former presidents? Should they also remain somewhere and they have to dictate things? The point is this, Hamza, Mukhtar, Nigerians, as we are evolving, and that is what will cascade down the polity. This issue of people that were CEOs at the age of 30-something are still warming the chair of ministerial roles at the age of 70-something is what we are talking about.
Sorry short that, because governors, many of them have started lobbying.
Yes, no, it's okay.
CEOs,
but what we are saying is that Mr. President should consider those that he believes share the same ideals and vision with him, and still have the energy, and still have the power, the strength, and the strength of character. Because one of the things we need to see is also that balance of sense of character and integrity, which APC as a party and as a government needs to deal with Nigeria. We have a large section of Nigeria that has issue with that. So that confidence building and trust building has to do with kind of people we see coming into this administration. I don't have anything with governors that have value to add that will come and be part of this polity. After all, a lot of them have a lot of years of energy to give. But the point is, this sense of entitlement by governors should be demystified by Mr. President. We are over 200 million people of a nation that is blessed by the best of the best. And indeed, the best of the best have even not the opportunity to become governors. And to that extent, the governors should show political dexterity from the point of view of strategy to also learn the act of waiting. That there is time to act, there is time to wait, there is time to be on the floodlights, and there is time to play on the sidelines and become political, political value additions, not liabilities. So to that extent, we know that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu will not wish away or do away with some of these governors. But we believe they have come, they have given the value, let other people also within the party hierarchy or indeed across the party hierarchy come in and add value to the critical movement of Nigeria. 8 years ago, we know where we were in 2015. The numbers are not looking good in 2023. We need to face that fact and be front-facing. When we make as a party and as a nation our conversation around some governors, then we have a big problem in Nigeria. We recognize the governor's contributions, but Nigeria is bigger than any governor, and that is why even presidents come back to add value as special envoys. So there is a lot of roles these governors will play, whether as ambassadors, whether as special envoys. or even in terms of adding value to communities. You don't have to be part of the government. Go and even an NGO, go and open a non-profit, add value to your community. There are many ways you can play politics. We have this impression in Nigeria, and I've said it also because of my political activism. Are you back in politics? I say yes, but there are many ways you can play politics. And to that extent, let them look at how they can upscale that and change the conversation. But I look forward to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu not waiting to, because you see, the governors become like some demigods, dictating to the president or anybody what happens. Has that really played out by impacting positively on our polity? I don't think so. And I think we should move, the Nigerian political evolution should move, like I said, to the next stage. And I say that is why he could be the person, because if he constructively disrupts as he has started doing, we'll see governors that add value going with him. Those that don't add value should go and take a chill pill. That's my point.
Many of them want to remain in the spotlight. It's not that they don't have resources, they have money. Many, we know, they have money, but the mere fact that that power, that aura of power, authority is not there, some of them are even sick now. Yes. So how do we reconcile this?
Well, I really don't envy the president at this point, because like I said earlier, if we look at how politics has been played in the country, it has always been that appointments are reward for good behaviors during the campaign. But like Baba Yusuf have actually stated, what I can actually add to that is, at this point where our policy is actually evolving, it's actually time we begin to understand that there are people who are good with the political campaigning, and then there should be people who are good with driving the governance and the economy. So now, when we get to that point, of understanding, and then we are all in agreement and there's a concession on that front, then it becomes easier for us to actually move forward as a people. So when you play very well in the political sphere, you're good with the mobilization and everything, doesn't necessarily mean that you can understand the technical and administrative part of an MDA. So that, which is also something that we need to put into keen consideration.
All right.
Malam Nasser, if I always say, is an accidental public servant.
Yeah, public servant.
And which is something that most of us have actually looked into and hoped for. But the point is still that if opportunities are not given to young people to come and show what they can actually do,
it becomes a bit easier.
Yeah, it becomes a bit easier. It becomes a bit difficult, I mean, for the dynamics of how we want our governance structures to change. So while the president is in a hunt, he's in a head hunt for people. I have a feeling that he already knows who he wants to put where. He's just looking for soft landing, for a way to do it in such a way that it does not create uproar, which is something I think is very, very necessary. Because like I've said earlier, politics and policies make good governance.
Baba, what is your take on Minister of State? When Festus Keyamo rebelled of sorts, at the valedictory with the president, many said he rebelled because for many years he didn't say anything during the valedictory that it's not even constitutional, and then that they are overshadowed by the senior minister. Therefore, going forward, leaders should look at the possibility of not even appointing ministers of state. Do you agree?
First of all, to my mind, that is Festus Keyamo SAN's opinion. I think it's this political grandstanding and positioning based on his contributions to the campaign. With all due respect, like I said, the man on the hot seat sees things differently. It's like people watching a football match. If you have 100,000 spectators, you have 100,000 coaches. The person that is running with the ball, the striker or the defender or midfielder, know what is the state of play. The coach that is marshalling resources to deliver know what is the state of play. This concept of minister of state is part of the political expediencies that had to be managed. Like Mukhtar was mentioning, managing these politicians.
The constitution says you must have minister from each state,
which is okay.
But you can't have 36, right?
No, if you have 36 ministries, for example,
all of the cabinet,
what are the ministries going to do, for example? Now, this expediency of having minister of state is a function of how that president wants to have political balancing, taking it from managing the critical power blocks,
the provision
then
of the Constitution.
To fulfill the provision of the Constitution. Because if I come and I want to run, with all due respect to the learned silk, Festus Keyamo, if I want to run a leaner, more efficient government. With the due respect, I had to write last week about structure and cost of governance as a critical success factor moving forward. And we are saying we are advocating for leaner, more efficient governance framework, and we have to scale down the cost of governance, starting from the top to bottom. And you now want to have all 36 ministries, for example, to satisfy that constitutional provision. Yeah. Is that efficient? Is that the right way to go, for example? I think the role of the Minister of State is as valuable as the mandate that will be given by Mr. President. It is as valuable as how Mr. President structures the reporting line. I remember in the first time of President
Buhari, Hadi Sirika was subsumed under transportation.
Yes, and
you can imagine now when he even earned his freedom.
Yes,
look at how it ended.
That's my point. So it depends on how Mr. President, in this case, structures his government. Minister of State or no Minister of State, we saw what happened in the last 8 years. Even directors in MDAs were running, all over the place without control. So what we expect is a government that will be more humane, more practical, more pragmatic, leaner and efficient.
And that was the time we saw some heads of MDS stronger than even their ministers.
It's a function of
agencies.
Yes, because it's a function of the top line leader. In this case, what I call the focal point leader. This issue became an issue in the last 8 years because of how the personality type of that leader. Now, if the personality type is different, you won't see these things happening, even if the CEO of that department or agency is as powerful or whatever. There's a reporting line, there's a chain of command, and if the president wants it to be done in a way or manner, you either fall in line or you fall out.
I think there are some ministries that we even had 2 ministers of states, at a time.
Yes.
Personally, I think whenever I think of the concept of the minister and the minister of state, what comes to mind is secondary school economics, the law of diminishing returns.
Okay.
When you keep bringing in more and more people to do a particular work or a small work, of course everybody is going to get lazy because they assume that the next person is going to do it. So, and I think that's sort of what we suffered for the past 8 years.
Okay.
I was trying to remember the exact constitutional provision that actually speaks about appointment. I know that it says at least, it does not put a cap on the appointment, but it said at least 36. But it does not say at most.
At least.
No,
it says that every state must have representation. And I think during Obasanjo, he was, clever enough that he even had ministers representing geopolitical zones.
Yes, he did.
So you could actually, the point is the president can have 100 ministers if he wants.
Wow.
He can call them minister or whatever. That's just the point. The point is that the constitutional provision does not really say there's a cap on it.
No cap, yeah.
So for Festus Keyamo to come in and say what he said, I think he's just feeling bitter. Maybe he has heard rumors that he's going to get Minister of State again. Who knows?
Okay.
But the point
is, to forward
the point
with
still
apologies to him.
Of course. But the point still remains that we cannot have as much people as we have running the government, running the ministries, departments, and agencies, when we can actually have fewer people doing more work, because we cannot be paying off the coffers of the country to people, to 5 different MDAs, ministries, departments, agencies, or parastatals doing one single job. That's not efficient. So that needs to cut down. We've been discussing the white paper reports, the Orusayin white paper recommendations for more than 10 years now. I think it's high time we actually put that into action, even if it means reviewing it, because we already have a model, a working model that everybody agrees. For once, the Orusayin white paper recommendations, we all agree to it that this guy was right here where he says, this is where we can cut governance, this is how we can make,
even though some people have come out to say that it will not really reduce cost of governance.
For me, I'm not really looking at it from the cost of governance.
Okay,
I'm looking at it from the efficiency of governance. Because, see, governance is always going to be very expensive. That's just the truth. You cannot run the country on pennies on the dollars. It doesn't work. Because it has to be expensive for you to get it. But efficiency of how the monies are being used, now that is where we want to actually do something. Because at the end of the day, the president is saying, fuel subsidy needs to go because the country does not have money to pay for it. So there needs to be we need to let it go. Nigerians needs to adjust. He pleaded with us in his June 12th speech. He sort of hinted it during his inauguration speech. Then again, the education subsidy is going. Then again, the electricity subsidy.
Almost all subsidies
is also
are going.
All because we say that the coffers of the country is running dry. But the government politicians are living la vida loca.
Bloated, yeah.
They are living la vida loca. The governance structure is so you cannot expect, because if you look back at it in history, what happened to the then Queen of France before the French Revolution? This is something similar. People were saying that you were telling us that there's famine in the land, but you are eating wide. What happened in Sri Lanka some years ago? So something similar. So we don't actually want that for our polity in this country.
While
so
those in power are saying they want to save in order to provide infrastructure, they should also save from what they are taking to take care of themselves.
Oh yes, because at the end of the day, we're on the precipice of a very precarious time as we are as a country, and how we forge ahead is really, really, really paramount as a people. So whatever the government projects to us is what we're actually going to embody. So if we do not try as much as possible to ensure that we actually get it right at this point, there's going to be a lot of backlash in the next 4 years, and the president is not going to like the outcome. And of course, I've always said that I, for one, do not want us to have another suffering. So I'm giving him the chance to fail.
Wow.
I'm going to give him the chance to fail.
May
so
he not fail. Should he be the Minister of Petroleum?
Oh no.
I don't think so. I think that
Mukhtar, you responded quickly. But I saw how Baba Yusuf looked at me. It's like he was very angry, right? Why should I?
To be honest, I understand why former presidents had to give themselves that role.
Okay.
But the same reason why it has not worked is the same reason why I don't expect President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to appoint himself Minister of Petroleum. It has not been successful from the strategic point of view. It has not been efficient from an operational point of view. It has not been impactful from a transactional point of view. Okay. So it has not added value. The president has bigger issue to deal with. He is presidential. Let him focus on that. Let him focus on that. Give someone that role, powers, empower the person. After all, we are talking about struggling with Minister of State and all that. So let him add that minister to the foray so that you have less ministers of state. Give people the mandate. Have a performance-driven system. And if people don't deliver, you deal with them in line with how things should be done. But I don't think this president we have today, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, should appoint himself Minister of Petroleum.
All right. We have completely run out of time. Yeah, so you have maybe just 1 minute or less to give you a thought. But would you also recommend having like Minister of Water Transportation? Because the thousands of people
sounds too redundant if you ask me. Actually, it sounds very redundant. But if I may add something...
What will you recommend then?
If I may add something to what he said about the Minister of Petroleum. First things first, it's unconstitutional. According to section 134 of the Constitution, it's 134 or 138, one of the two. Let me be either 134 or 138. I'm very certain.
We'll have to go and check.
The Constitution clearly states that the president shall not take on any other executive position or any other form of paid employment during his tenure. So it is unconstitutional and it's actually illegal for the president to actually be the Minister of Petroleum, because going by that particular section, unless there's some ambiguity in its translation.
Section 138,
Yeah, section 138. So unless there's some ambiguity in the interpretation of that particular section,
the president should not hold any other office during his tenure, any other executive office or
any other form of paid employment during his tenure. So this is very...
So it should be a no-go area.
Yeah, it should be.
Why did you repel my question when I said water? Because if you look at the number of people we are losing now because of terrible state of our inland waterways, we're not losing them in the aviation sector.
Well, there's the Ministry of Works, There's Ministry of Works.
New and all that, but it's like, I don't know.
It's efficiency. It's just the efficiency of those people.
Okay, I think it has to do with how the Minister of Transportation betrays his ministry.
Okay.
Within the Ministry of Transportation, railway, road, and water can be dealt with. You have focal point leaders, directors that will deal with that. But there's also this function of a very critical organ of government, the emergency response, NEMA or whatever. These are all players that are supposed to come and make our our waterways or even the roads safer and have proactive mechanism to contain accidents and incidents
when they happen. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Time is up for us. I wish we have more.
It's never enough.
Baba Yusuf, thank you for coming to the program. Columnist and opinion writer. And Mukhtar Suleiman, also public affairs commentator and strategic communication expert, for coming to the program.
Thank you very much.
We have to have you again. And viewers, that's Saraf for today's edition. Once again, Eid Mubarak. See you tomorrow for another interesting package. Bye-bye for now. I'm Hamza Idris.